push the charge of dynamite on a stick under what you felt was a key log, and then run like hell and got behind the biggest tree you could find, and all of a sudden you puffed.
Yeah.
The wood would be flying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, morning everybody. We are at a site. It's I don't know, kind of historical in my mind, and especially in Howard's mind. Howard built this way back when.
I was on the crew that built the dam.
Okay.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was in 1947 in the spring, 47. We used to have we had tote teams in those days and built tote roads. We built these dams for water to flush out the pulpwood down the rivers and through the lakes all the way down to Black Bay.
And they built this dam, and you used to have to walk for a couple miles, bring them equipment, whatever, supplies. There's not much left of it now. It's an old sluice dam coming out of a lake and into a river. The road crossed here at one time. You can still partially make out some timbers. That's exactly where the sluice dam was, right there. You can still make out the timbers on both edges. And there was a gate, open and shut with the water level up or down. There's another part of it. See through the trees here. Creek's running really good. Let's see if I can figure out a way across this thing. Yeah, I'm standing on a tree down and kind of a makeshift blockage here. I don't know if I can get across that other tree or not. It's pretty thick down there. I'll give her a shot here. Got a nice big log there. But, so there's where Howard's Dam was. See if I can zoom in here. You can see the corner of the wood there. Crawled up this log, jumped off right here, landed on this log, and I'm basically across. Now we can get up to the other side of the dam. You can see way up there, that's where the old road used to run. Pretty grown in now, I'm assuming. Looks like what I would call an end pier here. We're on top of where it's all filled in. That's where the main sluice gate used to be. Timber sticking out of there. All gone now. All downstream somewhere.
And my job at the time, I was 16 years old when I went to the bush. And my job at that time was to go from the camp with a pack sack and go for mail or whatever it was, which is about roughly a 2.5, 3 mile walk. There and back, but it wasn't every day because we didn't need supplies every day, and there was a tote team coming in a couple of times a week with supplies and whatnot for the camp to build the dam. And one of the other jobs I had, I remember this because it was when they were building the dam, they'd build it up with timber, square timber, and they'd build the dam in pockets. And you had to fill those pockets with rocks, boulders, stone, whatever you could find to give the ballast on the dam, to hold the dam in place. And that meant going below the dam, in the creek, and any rocks you could find, you put it on a stone boat, and you pulled it up to the dam, and then you'd throw the rocks in these pockets. And that was one of the jobs. And running back and forth, I enjoyed that because you were in the woods, you had lots of fresh air, and you had a lot of good food. At 16 years old, that meant a lot. Yeah.
What kind of hours did you put in?
Hours was, well, you worked until you got tired, I guess.
Yeah.
It could be 5. Whenever they did have a meal time, and when supper come along, we would go in and have supper, and then go out and whatever you do. I mean, hang around and talk, and I listened. Some of these old timers, they had some great stories at that time. And I listened to everything that I could pick up, and they were interested in telling if you listened. They would tell you stories that unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's about it, you know. We worked every day. Every day we worked. No shortage of work. That was right after the war pretty well.
Yeah.
No shortage of work.
And when did you go home, kind of thing? Was there holidays, or did they let you go home, or?
You'd let you go home in the spring. Lots of times the fellows went for the runs. They'd go into the bush in September, August, September, and then some of them would run right through till spring, and then the spring break up, out they would go.
Wow.
To town and back in for the river drive.
Yeah.
These dams were kind of interesting. There was very many of them. The dams were scattered on all the main rivers. Or if there was a good sized creek, even the creeks, like you take Seagull Creek, it ran into Lecky Creek, and Lecky Creek ran into Sturge Lake, and Sturge Lake ran into Nonwatan River, and the Nonwatan River ran into the Black Sturgeon down to Camp 1, which was on the Nonwatan, Eskanonwatan, and then through to Black Bay.
Camp
It's a
One,
long river drive.
Camp One, you ended up as supervisor there.
Yeah, I ended up as a supervisor eventually. I spent a lot of time in the scaling business. I got my scaler's license, and I spent a lot of time scaling with the company. And we'd then went from one to the other. You know, I went from a scaler to a hall foreman, and just kept going. First thing, I was assistant superintendent.
Then you didn't have to walk.
You
didn't have to walk so much after that, eh?
No, I was running around. Yeah, no, that's right. But I enjoyed the bush.
Yeah.
We'd use the vehicles as far as we could go, but in the wintertime, jump on a pair of snowshoes, and away you'd go.
So
With
you
your little
walked.
axe blazing,
Yeah.
out cuts and whatnot.
So you walked down to the dam every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The water control was a very important part of the operation in those days, because if they wanted to get the wood to the mill, you got to make sure you had lots of water
Oh, yeah.
to
Yeah.
run the wood on. And we had these little setup with gators, what we call gators, tugs, small tugs, pull the wood across the lakes to another dam. And some dams were rigged for sluicing, and some were just for water, to hold the water. And start the wood, certain time with the water. Water was always ahead, because if you didn't want to run the water to get the river going full blast to move the wood, you'd have a big jam on your hands.
Yeah.
So they would, and then they would hit these other dams, small dams, and they just keep pushing it down till they got her down to where you can handle it with the gators on the lakes. That was always interesting, because you had boom timber, and you get around the boom timber and tow it down to the next area, next dam, sluice it all through there again. The river drive would start in May sometime after the ice went on the lakes, and end up in October.
Oh yeah, that long.
Yeah,
Eh?
you'd have to go down and rear all this wood down. Rear, what we call rearing, means pulling it off the shore and keep it, cleaning all the rivers of all the wood, and then it would go from right through the whole system to Black Bay. We'd end up in Black Bay probably sometime in October. Getting pretty cold then too, for to be in the
Yeah, I
around
can
the water.
imagine.
But they had these what we call pointers. They
Yep.
were pointers.
Little boats.
Boat.
Yeah.
These fellows on those pointers were experts at boat control.
Yeah.
There's poles, pike poles, maybe a couple of oars, but they were great people. They are hard workers. It was a pleasure. I would never traded it for anything.
Oh, that's
Real.
cool.
Every morning you could figure there was something different going to happen. You'd have a jam, and you'd have to get the crew in a man boat, go as far as you could by road, then you'd have maybe down through the bush on a trail to the river, break the jam, keep the wood moving.
So you use dynamite?
Did we use dynamite? Yes, lots of it. And this is quite a story, you know. When you got a jam, if it was a pretty heavy jam, you couldn't move it. And the water was pushing it all the time. It kept pushing it up, pushing it. So I was one of the younger guys in the crew, and fairly good on my cork boots. We had cork boots. They fix up a charge of dynamite, and you got to pick the key log in the jam. That's quite a chore. You'd have to know pretty well what you're doing. But it was because I was young and I could run. And you got used to running cork boots on. So you'd get out there and you'd spin it and you'd push the charge of dynamite on a stick under what you felt was a key log. And then run like hell and got behind the biggest tree you could find. And all of a sudden you puff. The wood would be flying.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was always, I enjoyed doing that. Dynamite, well, we'd maybe have, depends on the amount of power, amount of dynamite you figure you should use. Should you use 6, 8 sticks of dynamite? So you put had to make it up ahead, stand it up, but you had a cap and a piece of fuse long enough, not long, extra long, but it was so many minutes you had on that fuse. You push it in the cap, and then you take, of all things, Sunlight soap to seal the cap so the water wouldn't get in there. Then you'd stand it up, and then if you got a jam, you had it all ready to go. All you had to do was light it. And then you knew by the length of your fuse just how long you had to wait.
Yeah.
I did that many times.
Yeah, right on.
I think the history, history is, we lose so much of it, and years go by so fast.
Yeah.
But it was a very, very rewarding part of my life.
Yeah.
Very rewarding. Woods, fresh air, good food. You couldn't ask for better than. And I actually lived right up in the bushes with my wife for the first 8 years.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Right up at Black Surgeon Camp 1.
Yeah.
For 8 years. We even had a little school there with 7, because there's other families moved in there. That's when the families were, families started to move into the woods and with their families. And we had 7 or 8, 10 kids maybe, and we had the biggest little school in northwestern Ontario. Biggest SS number 1 Adamson.
Oh yeah.
But it was a great start for a family, because you're all together and right amongst them. And it's great for the children to get a start, but then it became, once they got into the upper grades at the 8, it was, you had to move to town to further their education.
Yeah. Huh. Wow.
That's, but it's, I wouldn't have traded it for anything.
Yeah. Okay, that was a pretty awesome story. And I'll end the video here. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, everyone.